Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey.
Good Latin morning to you all people. That didn't make sense. But
Latin morning. Good morning, Talbalava, Malora, and a warm Pacific greetings to everyone. Oh my gosh, it's been an awesome morning. Oh my gosh, I'm super excited. The laughs, we hope that the laugh has, given you a reason to be like, what? Yeah, have a great day. But man, how are you guys? We've got, again, the amazing, the beautiful Hana, our host, and also producer Ryan, one of our other hosts here in the building. But today we've got the beautiful, the number one, the stunning, that one person that ignites the fire every time, drum roll, beautiful Mema. Good morning.
Good morning.
Guys, how have you guys been today, everyone?
No, yeah, been really good.
Yeah.
We've had the show on for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, how many weeks have we had the show
Well,
on?
this is
Actually,
episode 14. Even
so that's 4 weeks. We've had the show for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And usually Bear introduces us as like, we have the beautiful Ryan and the amazing Hana. But this time when she introduced Ryan as beautiful, he didn't look at the camera this time. He usually looks at the camera. But sorry.
I know I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
thank you. No need to remind me. Exactly. It's an awesome morning. How are you today, Ryan?
I'm feeling good. That was probably the perfect way to into the show.
Yes. Well,
Love
we're in a room full of musicians. Except I'm not a musician. I'm probably just.
Oh, you
She
are
is a
just
musician.
fine.
Everyone is a musician.
Everyone is a musician. Just for me, I should just stay quiet. But this morning, we do have the musicians in the house, and it was just fitting to try and harmonize that good morning for everyone. Mema, the beautiful Mema, how have you been?
I've been good, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Not so much productive, but otherwise very
Good.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, as you all know, we start off with this positive quote thing to help you get through your morning, through your week, through your weekend, through your day, whatever you're going through. Man, we hope that, it is Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori. So we thought, I thought as well that I will just give it a go with a Māori quote this morning. So I'll start off, and it goes like this. I will have the translation, and I apologize if I get the pronunciation wrong. Which is mā mua ka kite a mori, mā mori ka ora a mua, which means those who lead give sight to those who follow. Those who follow give life to those who lead. And that's my quote this morning.
Wow.
Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts? I mean, for me, this is simply beautiful. I think those who follow the leaders think they don't have a purpose in what they're doing. They just follow. But I don't. I feel like they're the ones who give the leaders life.
I think it's the passion and the following part as well.
Yeah.
Like there's something in following something that you truly believe in that's so significant rather than leading what's following. And that plays a big part because otherwise if there are no followers then there's no leader, I suppose.
Leading is stressful. Can we talk about how stressful leading is?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I didn't like
absolutely.
being-
I don't like being a
Yeah,
leader.
I didn't like being a leader.
I'm
I didn't
like looking
like
here and looking
the
at
res-
Belle going, you got this one, girl.
No, but you know what? But I think leadership is, it doesn't, I think we're always so used to a leader being someone like in a position like the queen. But man, you can be a leader in anything. Like you can be a lead singer and still be a follower, right?
Or a queen.
Or a queen. Or a queen singer.
Queen
Or a
bee.
Queen bee. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
No, yeah, like as you said, leadership is hard,
Yeah.
and you can't be a leader if your followers aren't giving you the life, aren't following
Absolutely.
you properly. Yeah.
You have to form a really good relationship
Yeah.
with the people that follow you or want to be a part of your journey to be able to lead something. Because otherwise, if you have a wacky relationship with them, you're leading on your own
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
to nowhere.
Yeah.
Like on that, sorry. when I used to work at Pack and Save, they gave us this thing. It was called take care of your external customers, which are the customers that come into your store, as well as your internal customers, which is your employees. Because if you're taking care of both, then the relationship between your internal and external creates that
Nice.
good culture. So
It's that good culture, that good relationship. It's that good love thing.
Yeah, it's like it all builds up from a relationship. You have to have a really good relationship with everybody that surrounds you in every aspect of your life, because otherwise it would mean nothing at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're a leader, you have to be like super social and super good
Yeah.
at being social and keeping up that energy for everybody.
It requires a lot.
Absolutely.
That's definitely not my area. I'd rather stay home and
Us.
not be
Likewise,
social.
I'm with
Yeah, I'm very much an introvert, but I can be an extrovert when I need to be.
when you need to be.
But it's very exhausting. It's draining of my energy.
it,
But,
it does
I
take
give
a lot.
I take my hat off to people who can do that because it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
It's a lot of face masks.
It's a lot of like it's not necessarily the face mask too. I think it's the whole mental preparation of having to be open to everybody in different perspectives
know.
all at once.
And, like, in
you
my
have
head,
to
I'm
be
just
really
like,
open-minded about it, and like that takes a
Right.
really big mental preparation. So it takes
Exactly.
a really strong person to
You
lead.
really need to be adaptable too, because for me, my issue in going out into spaces is I don't know what's going to go on.
Yeah.
I don't know what people are going to
Yeah.
say to me. So I don't have that pre-planned script
right?
to talk
Yeah,
to
just
everyone.
be like, I need to have like a conversation maker.
Yeah,
What should
yeah.
I talk about? Was this sports
Give me
the
a
night
prompt.
prior to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even really think of that. I must talk a whole lot
Well,
of
you're
rubbish.
quite the social butterfly, so obviously you're the leader in the situation right now. So
I think I want to say I think I don't know what it is. I just enjoy just being in that space.
oh, I
Like,
love that about you.
Yeah, I just enjoy it. Like, I mean, remember that night that I saw you out? That
It
was
just like it oozes out of you. She's just like naturally such a social butterfly.
Yeah.
I think certain people have that talent.
They do.
Where they ooze
Yeah.
like I am here for it all.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like, oh no, I'm so nervous. What do I do?
But you know the funny part is when I go home, that ooze is like.
But home is your recharge station.
Yeah,
so
true.
it's only fair that you kind of like remove everything and
Yeah.
recharge yourself just to pack it up again
Yeah.
and be like,
Ryan, do not make a TikTok. That was just horrible. But guys, we know I love the quotes that come through from everyone. What are your quotes this morning?
I've got one, and this is also just to celebrate Te Wiki Te Reo Māori. E hara taku toa I te toa takitahi. Engari ke he toa takitini. My success should not be bestowed onto me alone. It was not individual success, but the success of a collective.
I love that.
So this is
Wow.
going along the lines of leadership and following, making sure that teamwork is effective, and those relationships, as we're saying, are like strong enough to keep the team moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this quote is good for two kinds of people. The first person is the person who keeps saying, "Oh, I did everything myself."
Yeah.
And the second person is the person who says, "Oh, without me, they wouldn't be there."
Yeah.
It's like, bro, step back. Like, we
That's
get it.
absolutely true.
Yeah, like, we get it. Everyone has a role to play, but having to address it just shows, like, deeper
Yeah.
insecurities.
Yeah.
And like
I mean,
bouncing
it's
off
quite
that.
enlightening as well, because at the same time, because the quote itself is just like really surfacely based. It doesn't define who
No,
and where and
Yeah.
what situation you're in, but it's relative to both situations or several, if you must say.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that. I love that. It's definitely a wake-up call. 'Cause I think sometimes we sit there and we're like, but that was my idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you kind of step back and you're like, well, actually, yeah, it was my idea. But this person in your team prompted you to think of that idea.
Absolutely.
So everyone has a place.
Yeah,
Everyone has
that's
an
true.
important
Like a
role.
domino
That's
effect.
true.
Yeah, everyone plays the most important part, whether you contribute more. It's like that Bible, you know what, I'm not even going to go there. You normally say this line. It's
Go
like that.
there. Now that
You
you're
know-
saying it, you have to go
So I
there.
don't know, I can't quote that verse, but there's something, I think it was, oh gosh, I've just had a mind blank. But where it doesn't matter at what stage you turn up into a church or whatever, what you give is pretty much the same amount. Well, it's not church. Which proverb? Or which? It was a story. There's a story in the Bible.
widow who gave with
I
all her
suppose
heart.
it just doesn't matter how late you are to the party.
To the party, yeah.
But the genuity of what you're bringing with you and the energy that you're coming with is what matters most, I suppose.
That's the one. Yes. But I know that there's a Bible quote. But love it. Love the quote. Love it. I think
I
it's
love
always
it.
a reminder for us every single day that, guys, it's not always, everyone plays an important part
Yeah.
in your life.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not.
And everybody amounts up, even the bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the good and the bad, or what we define as bad, like who says what's
Yeah.
good and what's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, people do what they could in the best they could with what they know,
Yes.
right? So if somebody comes and clashes your moment in like a negative situation that you wouldn't feel like you'd rather them not do that, like it ends up playing a big role in life. It is written as it's supposed to be, and whatever. I mean, just
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It is.
At the end of the day.
It is what it
But
is.
It is what it is.
Should we do a harmonize?
Good morning again.
Hana, did you have a quote?
Yes, I do have a quote. Sorry, I don't have one in te reo. But this one is short, straight to the point. The older I get, the less I want to be right.
I think that one hits like a lot of good strings inside because
Yeah.
we are so egotistically driven,
Yeah.
especially when we're very young, because everybody wants to be heard or wants to be seen as significant in some situation, whichever. You just want to be seen or heard at some point. And that's like your ego driving you. But in the end of the day, it's really just a similar truth in the bottom of it all that's expressed really differently in the end of the day. But we all come down to the same agreement once we let all that biz go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think 'cause as we get older, man, it's like we pick and choose our fights now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just don't want to.
You've
I don't
come
want
to the age-
constantly use
yeah.
my energy
Yeah.
to
I think-
fight something.
I think with age, like you start to realize how patterns repeat themselves, and you get bored of the repetition of patterns that you want to change it differently. You're kind of like, I don't care too much as I used to, because in
Yeah.
the end of the day, it really doesn't change that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all within yourself.
It's like I saw that, like there's that meme online, 1 + 1 = 4. Okay. Okay. Yeah, one
You say
plus-
so.
If you say so, 1 + 1 = 4. Fine.
Yeah.
You know, there's it's just
Whatever.
that, right? You know. Okay, it is what it is. I'm not going to argue with you
Yeah,
because
yeah.
arguing with in certain situations to have the same result.
Yeah.
Laters.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
right.
me.
Yeah, I think as you age as well, you kind of lose the sense, like as you were saying, that you need to be understood.
Yeah.
Like you don't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You. As long
doesn't
as
apply.
you understand yourself, and as long as your family understand you, like you don't
Yeah.
care anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You lose that sense that you need to be.
To prove
Yeah,
yourself.
100%.
But also,
somehow.
like, it's such a hard place to get to.
Yes.
Yeah,
that place,
absolutely.
like-
it takes
Well,
up
like-
a lot of your energy to try and fight your right.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you are aware of your right, it doesn't mean that you are able to change somebody immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's such
you
a beautiful
choose
place to be.
Fight that or not fight
It's
it.
such a beautiful quote this morning. Actually.
It's a magical one.
It's a magical. We know Memas are filled with quotes because, you know, we. Do you have any quotes this morning? You don't want.
I don't actually have any.
What about a music? What's, you know, a musical,
A
a lyric, something that can, you know, that you. That hit.
I don't know. I'm a really introverted person.
Yeah.
I don't know too much of advising outside of myself. But I do know that once you find what resonates with you in your energy, whether it's music, whether it's production, whether it's photography, whatever it is, just you devote yourself to that, and all itself would somehow take care of you, weirdly. And I think when you believe in something so much, you truly believe in it. Just clear out the white noise. And I don't
Yes.
have any quotes, so
I love
whatever
that.
I
it
think
is
that
you
was
feel in
quote
your
enough.
heart,
Yeah.
do it.
That was
And
quite
just-
enough.
Yeah.
And just do it.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely, because you're right, because I had a conversation with Talosia this morning. We were talking about whatever it is in your heart, just go with it. And like Mema said, sometimes what's in our heart is not what our family or the outside world want.
absolutely. It's kind of you instinctively feel it in your
Yeah.
body, in your mind, in your soul. If it feels like it doesn't resonate with your norm or what you were taught to be, it's definitely not your path.
Yeah.
You know it yourself, despite the odds of it being against you. Follow what your heart is telling you. I think that's your sanctuary. You listen to that part of you.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, your mortality is your worst definition of life, because the people who would tell you to do this would eventually die, and then you see in the end of the day, were they happy? Am I happy? And you don't want to fall into that trap. Just follow what your body is telling you, what your instincts, what your soul is saying. I think when it feels right inside you, just know that that's your path. And
Man.
I really like what you said
Yeah.
earlier when you said you're better at advising yourself. I wish more people would do that nowadays, because we find, you know how you said everyone operates out of their ego. That means projection and advising others on how they should operate and things like that. But like really often you meet very self-aware people who are more concerned about the internal than they are about what other people
Yeah.
are concerned about. So I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
really
important.
important.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
suppose it does fall down a lot to do with like our upbringing, especially for Pacifica people. I mean, we're brought up to a certain standard, to a certain situation where certain expectations are supposed to be met. And if a part of, like, if a whole load of your aura doesn't resonate with that, it becomes really difficult. And then you're seen as somebody, as an outsider of your community. And that's okay too, because, you know, every now and again, you have to find that balance within yourself. If it's not working out for you, it shouldn't be something that you should comply with.
Yeah.
You know, you listen to yourself. In the end of the day, number one is more important than everything else outside of number one. You can't take care of number two if number one doesn't exist.
Yep.
You have to take care of number one first. And
Amen to that.
Amen.
Man, that was pretty powerful, Mema.
I mean, oof.
Not pretty powerful, that was powerful.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's-
boof.
No, it's just that whole, I love the where you said,
Oh, I only said that because I'm not a
Follow
doctor
your
or
heart.
an engineer, so I'm
Follow
like
your
kind of
heart.
like in my groove, like, you know,
Nah, man, follow
justifying my
your heart.
music.
I love that. Follow your heart. Just let your soul speak to
No,
you.
but in the end of the day, you would really thank yourself at the elation that you would feel in your life to follow your heart. Like you would, there's more relief in confronting the reality of what they tell you as truth and what you define yourself as your truth. So if you, once you realize your truth and set your boundaries out of everybody's truth about you, you come to realize that you're free. You're so free to do anything you want to do, whenever you want to do. And if they say that they are who they are, they would in some weirdly way, they will comply to who you are, because if they love you as they say they would approve of you.
Yeah.
So who is important to you sticks with you. Who doesn't need you would go away from you.
Yes.
And that's good, because it doesn't drain
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
You don't have to be drained with that business.
Nah, I love it. It's been an awesome morning. We're going to go straight into our next segment. You've heard it here. Find your truth, speak to your soul, follow your heart. After this music break, we'll be back.
Saufunga sina le tama fafi ne ole feangai ngana e tangi lauta ne ole ngongo sina e te mana me sina. Sole tui sau I le fale, sau I le fale a tanganga sena o bala auia tui matui. Ai oi mai ai ole tasi tui, o tui ole tafu e ole moene, olo o tofa I o uva e nei, tui e sau I fale nei. Sau funga sina, sau funga sina, sau funga sina, sau funga sina. Sole tui sau I le fale, sau I le fale a tanganga.
Good morning and welcome back to our Good Morning Show. Today we have an amazing guest, the beautiful Mema, who is a singer, who is a songwriter, who is a musician, who plays quite often around New Zealand and also has her own songs out. And she is of Samoan descent, and we're so happy to have her on the show to talk about everything from unicorns to rainbows and to culture and to philosophical ideas. So we're going to get straight into it. How are you today, Mima?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
So tell us about yourself. Like, what do you do as a musician?
Well, I go by the alias of Mema Wilda. I was born with the name by Moana to Mema Sisinga, which is, and I'm called Mema at home, so you know how we go. Yeah. Music has been a thing that's been around and about, and I'm sure you're well aware of it. We've been born and bred singing all our lives in church, growing up, and I suppose it wasn't really something to second guess for me. It was really the gist, so.
Yeah.
I decided that's my thing. I want to do that. Hope it goes well. And here we are.
That's amazing. No, and I love Mema's music. Personally, I listen to her myself.
Thank you.
But I've noticed that a lot of, Pacific Pasifika artists go into either hip-hop, R&B, or, you know what I mean?
I was quite aware of that.
Yeah. But Mema is very unique in the genres that she is playing in and making music in. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, well, that's really strange. It wasn't really something on purpose. I suppose it's always the influence when you're growing up. And, like, I was raised in Samoa. I wasn't raised in New Zealand. And I was raised in a lot of heavy metal, believe it or not, in Samoa. And, like, coming to New Zealand, I realized that people were more lenient towards, like, reggae, R&B, hip-hop, and all that cool stuff. And I was so behind the show and the situation. I was so influenced with, like, Metallica and System of a Down and things like that. And my dad loved the Beatles. And it was quite a weird mix for me growing up. And it's not like I had to write music from, an inspiration of something. It was always the aspiration of your what you're influenced in.
Right.
And so I was always kind of tapping in that market in my head, and I had no idea it was not a thing here at all. And I think coming here in New Zealand sort of just made me realize that there was just a really big opening. Everybody's open to all sorts of genres, and no matter who you are, where you're from, and I suppose I sort of owned it. It did seem a bit foreign that people were looking at you a bit alien, and you're kind of like, they're like, you're from Samoa? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, why do you do that music? And I was like, why do you do that music?
But
So
you know
it's
what?
like-
There's something about your music. It's so calming, honestly.
I mean, I don't know. You just kind of sort of, I think music
think
is like
people
a
put themselves
universal
in
language.
boxes.
Yeah.
You write them in ways that you feel something, and
Yeah.
it's not necessarily leaning towards a certain genre.
Yeah.
It could be like trance genre. It could mix everything at once as long as you're getting the feeling across. And I think that was more of the drive for me rather than it is to be a pop artist or a rock artist or whatever it is. And you know, a lot of times when they're like, what type of genre are you? And I was like, it shouldn't be defined. Music is so universal. You should feel it in every aspect of its life. Like, just music is music.
Yeah.
If you feel something in you that feels tingling and good, apply it. You don't have to put it in a category. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I guess I've been rolling like that.
And I like that.
I most probably need a lot of education on that, but it's good to be like unaware of it. So
Yeah.
But I
you're kind of
love
rolling
your
with it.
music. And Hannah's right. You're so unique. There's that calming. No, you know what? When I saw her, was it Wednesday? Honestly, you could just feel Mema's presence there, and I just
Just
looked
a weirdo
over.
in the house.
I just looked over and I was like, Mema's in the house, and you know, and it was so funny because you know it was a bar filled with, you know, I'm gonna say.
I was only supporting a friend who was running open mic, and he was like, it gets boring sometimes, but apparently that night was full. I don't
It
even
was
know what you were
packed.
doing there.
Well, yeah.
I was only there to support.
Anyways, we went to the bar,
And she like happened to turn up right up when he was running out of people to play in his open mic. And he was like, Mema, could you just sing a song? Because like the guy who was supposed to be playing at this hour is not turning up. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, okay.
But you know the funny thing is, and I'll be honest, I walked in and I was probably the only brown person.
I was a brown person.
Oh well, do you know what? I was the only other brown person apart.
I'm always
Don't
the
tell
only
me when I
brown
was there.
person.
Don't tell me where we were at, but yeah, I turned up to the bar and I looked up. It's Mema.
We were in like a bougie side of town.
Nice.
And
Let's just
you could
put it in the
feel-
statement.
Yeah, you can just feel her presence in there, right?
Yeah.
Just the joy she
Boo,
brings. I was
it's just
like,
the alien brown lady that turns up in the middle of nowhere. And just like, it's super crazy because like you kind of like, I don't realize that I have never had a differentiation of races and things and where people hang. So like, you know, when you're raised in Samoa, there's just like one cool spot where
Right.
everybody goes.
Right.
And then you go home.
yeah.
So like in New Zealand, there's several different spots and who hangs out where and who
Yeah.
hangs out where. I'm not aware of that. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like anywhere
Yeah.
I'm invited.
No, it's a
And
nice
I was
place.
like, this chick turned up. And it was such a relieving feeling. Because like, I was always the brown girl in every place.
Well, she wasn't the only one that night. I was there too.
But it was really good because it sort of puts a balance because it doesn't define anything from what your race is. It's just you're okay. You're all grooving in the same situation as long as nobody noticed.
Yeah, but music does that to you, though, eh?
It does. I think that's the magic of it. It's such a universal language. It brings people together, and no matter who you are or where you're from or how you were raised, whether it was so traumatic or so good, in the end of the day, you sort of feel something in a mutual situation. That's the whole point of life.
You know what else is a universal language?
Maths.
But it's boring. But it's boring.
That's horrible. That's such a bad thing to say. I like failed math so badly.
Me too. I hate maths.
I
I
thought
do
you were-
know my 1 + 1 and things, but like,
I thought you were gonna say love it.
I was sitting on that. I was betting on like a really like exotic answer, and you're like
Well,
maths, and I was like, no.
Take us back to the trauma of
Yeah,
high
I was
school.
like, this is so triggering.
Sorry, guys. I did not mean to bring. Nah, actually, I did mean to bring that one
Oh,
up.
I was kind of thinking along the lines of something about Samoan language or
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and I just wanted to talk about that a bit, Mema, because you're born and raised in Samoa, right? Mm-hmm. And now you're in New Zealand, and you've had to deal with some pretty massive culture shocks.
Oh,
Would we say
totally.
that?
I mean, it's not like I came to New Zealand with a big expectation or anything. Like, if I had to be very honest with myself, I came to New Zealand as a total bum. And I thought to myself, what could I pursue in this country that I couldn't do in Samoa? And I thought to myself, I love music. I love to sing. I love to play. Maybe I could pursue music because there was no way in hell I was going to, like, pack a perfect burger. You know, I wasn't going to be that guy. And so I thought I'd sing. And everything was so very skeptical. And I think the cultural shift, there was so much more support in New Zealand, music-wise, than you would ever get in Samoa. And despite all your insecurities that are very visible, you get really nervous. And for me, it's very visible to see the level of anxiety I was operating on when I first started playing shows and things like that. But the support that came with it, I think it was everybody else who was listening to the music rather than seeing your expressions. They just knew you were kind of new to the situation. But it was that foundation of that support where people were kind of like, it's okay. You're safe. You're not going to die. Your mom's not going to beat you up in front of everybody. You're okay. You know? And you sort of ease into it and then find that sort of comfort. And you're kind of like, this country is really good for pursuing music. Music, things in arts and things like that are not very much. They are currently developing in Samoa as a support system for children. But I reckon there should be more, you know, they should be emphasizing more on that. There are so many kids who are not knowledgeable enough to, or not enthusiastic enough to carry through with the whole, like, curriculum of education in the situation because they are talented in different ways. And I think once you let them know that it's okay to be different and it's okay to nurture a certain talent that's not that, it's really good because I sort of came in New Zealand completely lost. I just felt really rejected of home. To be honest, like, I was raised in a family of overachievers. Sorry to admit that. I like, my sisters and my brothers are just insanely amazing. I have a civil and environmental engineer for an eldest sister. I have a pediatrician for a second sister. I have a professional musician for a third brother. The third sibling. The fourth is a surgeon, and I'm the baby. So there was quite a weight that was there, and I think a lot of us were kind of raised to be overachievers because it was either that or there's nothing there for you. And I think to pursue music was it felt like I was sort of not living up to that standard that everybody was raising you to be. And I think if more of arts and music was sort of a big promotional situation in Samoa, it would have been very different because you could apply that people have strengths in places that are different from the norm. And I think it's so worth looking into because that's something that's sanctuary to these people as well. I mean, you have a surgeon who sews people up to a certain type of song. I mean, it works. They all work together. And I suppose if that's all promoted together as a future career, that would be like something insanely cool. So I think my journey as a musician right now has like no proper direction rather than you could do whatever you want to do.
Right.
Just dream the fuck out of it. It becomes possible as long as you're really true to yourself and how you feel. Don't feel like you have to be obliged to somebody else's pleasure. It's your life. You have one life, and that's your only life. Now think about all the things that you could do for your life that you don't have to apply for anybody else's life. If you spend your whole life worrying about your family and worrying about all the people around you and how you'll pleasure them or disappoint them, you're wasting your whole entire being in what you could have been and what you want to be, I suppose.
No, that's awesome. That's huge. You know, you're coming from like
the meanest culture shock, because even I'm like just listening to
I'm
it.
like still freaking out about it, you know? Sometimes I question my ever existence, and you're kind of like, is it really worth doing? Am I really making a fool of myself? Do I really look like the joke that I'm supposed to be, and
I think
it
it's a-
doesn't matter in the end of the day, really. It is what it is, and as long as you are happy, like number one is very important. And I
I think it's
suppose
beautiful, Mima. I think it's beautiful that you give a different side to what, because we're so used to being told that you
have to be.
There's a standard.
That's the thing. There's
You're
a
so
standard.
restricted.
There's
Everything.
always a standard.
You mentioned all of this before, off air. And I feel like, I never, ever imagined that I would be sitting here doing podcasting, and I mentioned it on previous shows. Honestly, I mentioned on previous shows, I was told.
You're
not
a
told.
superstar.
No, you're a superstar. But
You
know
look
what I mean? But you know what I mean?
You ooze of too much confidence to be saying that.
No, I'm just saying, I never even imagined. But then when I'm listening to you, I'm just like, but that's the beauty of being different, because you're so unique. And
Just being you, really.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's just owning who you are without anybody else's definitions.
Yeah.
I think that's the greatest way to live life. Is, do I agree with this? Do I want this? Is this something that would make me happy?
Yeah.
Is this something that would make me better? Or is this somewhere I could develop? I think the main concern is within yourself, and then everything else unfolds for you. And despite whether people are going to hate you for it or oppose you for your decisions in life, in the end of the day, you are caring for you, and that's all that matters.
And I think,
and everything else that would apply to you, everything that resonates with you comes to you. Everything that doesn't belong to you or shouldn't or opposes your vibration moves away from you. And it's okay. It's okay to lose friends. It's okay to lose family. It's okay to lose people as long as you're true to yourself. You are true to the whole entire universe. And what more do you want from that?
And I think your story is like quite empowering, because I know a lot of very talented young people in the arts, like music, but they wouldn't go down that pathway because of money. I'm not talking about because of like money and just the fear around it all. But
I mean,
like,
a lot of it has financial issues, like still now. I mean, especially from Samoa, you're sitting on no funds. You're not coming here with like a $bajillion daddy and like funding for all your situations. You're working from scratch. And you really have to network the hell out of it. And the worst part about it is, if you are Samoan, you are very likely to be unconsciously like introverted. You are born to be caring for the immediate family. You're not used to the social situations or the social network situations that you're in, and you have to sort of adapt yourself in those situations. But I believe as long as you believe in yourself, no matter how weird they would perceive you to be, there's always an aura that holds you in with them, and they're kind of like, it's strange, but it's good. I think it's worth doing. And I think that's what everybody should do, because everybody is strange and good and worth doing, as long as they're very honest and truthful with their beings. And that's what makes people weird. It's when you're very authentic, and weird is not bad. I don't even know where weird became a bad thing. Weird is such a good thing. It's your authentic self. It's who you are, and you own your weird. I mean, when there's a weird, there's a way. It's gotta work.
when there's
When
a
there's a
weird,
weird,
there's
there's
a
a
way.
way.
That's your quote for today.
I think definitely where there's a weird, there's a way.
It's gotta work that way. I mean, I believe that everybody finds themselves and find their group and find their people once you're very truly authentic to yourself. You have to take care of you first. You have to love you first, and you have to have a really good relationship with you first. Despite all the conditioning that you were brought up in, I feel like I've been conditioned a lot. And a lot of my life, I've been trying to convince myself that I'm okay without this approval, without that approval. And I thought to myself, do I approve with what I'm doing? And you have to question yourself first. And it's weird, because when you first do that, you don't realize that you're actually questioning yourself, because it feels weird to ask yourself those questions. It's not something that you're normally asking yourself. You feel like you need their approval for you to question yourself. But it's good to challenge yourself that way. ask yourself, how do you feel about this? Make yourself a special person, like you're an important panel member in your own being. And going, how do I feel about this? Where do I see this going? How do I want this to turn out? Make you the main character for once. And I know in Pacifica, we are never the first person. We are never the first person. It's your family before anything. And it's and your family meaning everybody in an extension of so many human beings before yourself. And I think for once you kind of like drown out your entire family and think to yourself, you are the main character here. How would I feel about this? How do I feel I want me to turn out after this? You know, and try not to consider other people. And I think that's really hard for Pacifica people. I think it was the most difficult thing for me to do was to try and prioritize myself. I didn't know how to prioritize myself without hurting my family or hurting people who are close to me because it's different. And you're kind of like, if I should treat this like a human business and make myself the main character, it changes everything for you. And weirdly, like you don't even have to ask for it. You just need to know your terms and vocally speak your terms. And in the bed, like even if you're feeling scared, going, my conditioning told me that they'll be mad at me if I oppose the situation, it wouldn't. In the end of the day, you've just saved yourself something so big that would have drained your energy so bad, but you've just elevated yourself in a different level of consciousness, and that's freaking amazing, and that's something so powerful. I think it should be taught more in Pacifica because we are very programmed, we are very conditioned, and it's not like disregarding the culture because we do love, appreciate, and we are aware of what happens in our culture. We have to very much consider ourselves within the culture. I think that's something people should be aware of. I mean, we've seen ourselves as nothing in the situation, and it was everybody for ourselves. So now it's like the culture exists, but with our awareness of ourselves as well. We need to know the limit of where we need to cut off or where we need to be involved. And it's really good. It doesn't break any rules. It doesn't ruin the whole status of who you are and your integrity of how you were raised. You still hold your values, and at the same time, you just need to take care of you first. Yes. I think that's what lacks a lot in Pacifica. We're told so much to be selfless that we give up all our rights as human beings and forget to know that we exist as ourselves as number one. And if we apply both to be able to handle yourself first and handle everything else, so how powerful would that be? I mean, it's beautiful in that manner.
I think it'll be super powerful. We're just going to go into a break. And after the break, I really wanted to touch into that individualism and collectivism. How do you make them work together so that you're not too selfish and you're not giving too much of yourself without looking after yourself? We'll be right back after this song.
I played the part, I did it well. I've done it all, I will not tell. The things these eyes were made to see. You love me when I'm on my knees. Oh Lord, hallelujah. course of love I had to taste. I surrender to your grace. Oh Lord, hallelujah. I'm here to pray. I'm here to pray. I'm singing hallelujah. Can I say, I see heaven in your face as you reach your sacred place.
And we are back. We hope you enjoyed that beautiful song. And yeah, we've been having some pretty deep discussions. We just finished talking with the amazing Mema about caring about oneself and what that entails. Obviously, we know in Samoan culture and Pasifika culture, a lot of nations across the Pacific, we prioritize the collective. So we are constantly working not for ourselves, we are working for our families. We are constantly working for our villages and making sure that our families and extended families have food and that we can be there for them when they need it.
Yeah.
But sometimes that can be very unhealthy.
Yeah.
In a sense where we're giving too much of ourselves to our families or our extended families, and we lose ourselves in the process. We don't know who we are. We don't know who we stand to stress. Let's not get started on the stress. But I just wanted to get into a conversation with all of us. How do we find the balance between providing for the collective and also prioritizing your individual being? What are your guys' thoughts around that? Let's start with you, Mima. Let's go.
I mean, I suppose if you once you start feeling the tension, I mean, obviously when you're a Pasifika child who's growing up to be very respectful, you're not allowed to express your tensions or whatever it is that you're feeling that is tense inside the family household. And I think it's once you realize within yourself that there's a certain tension or there's a resentment within yourself with the natural norm of the operation of the family, you need to address the situation of where that's coming from, why that's coming from, and how you could change. Because the only thing you can do is change yourself within the pattern.
Can I just interrupt you there? What does that look like? Because we hear that a lot in advice videos,
absolutely.
right?
I
But
would
what does it
love
look
to
like?
say that. I mean, I feel like I've been beaten up by too many guitars in my life to know exactly where to differentiate yourself from that situation. Once you feel the resentment, I think naturally people would act up. Kids would act up. Your children would be like, this is not right. And it feels... Parents would take it as really offensive when children talk back to them in those situations. And I suppose in this age and day, we're quite a little bit more aware, both parents and children are accessible to places where they know not to overreact in those situations. And I think it's just the mere fact of addressing it in the most loving manner as well. Like a child would be like, I feel disrespected in this area. I mean, my mom would beat the shit out of me if I said that.
Yeah.
But in
Let's
the
hope your
manner
mom
of,
doesn't watch
of
this.
it, she's coming. She's coming. She's gonna be sitting in this office soon. But I suppose like if my mother was actually defining the situation for me, was I was so spoiled to have all the privileges that I have now, but to be aware of the fact of where they are and to be aware of what they were operating on with what they know. I think that's kind of the only bridge that we have as like the younger generation from your parental generations. You cannot change the perspective of how they were raised. It's just the mere fact of understanding where they were raised and making them understand where you're going from it.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to interrupt you again there. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of young Pasifika kids have that problem of the resentment they have towards their parents.
Absolutely.
But like what you said, you have to understand that they did their best with what
they
had.
had
Yeah.
and what they know currently.
Yeah.
I mean, what we know now, I mean, a lot of the younger generation would think that you are well aware to know a lot more because we're so accessible to information, and they weren't. And we wouldn't have this nature of having this egotistic vibe of knowing better than your parents did. The thing is, they've lived longer than you have. We may know more in just the specs of the details of it, but we cannot define everything that they had known and seen to what we had only saw in a snippet of a video here and there. So it's going to take a long information situation and exchange to be able to have them understand where you're coming from. And I suppose the only situation here is operate where they're coming from, to know where they're coming from in the awareness that you are in now, and to know that you would very differentiate the situation if you have children or younger people to influence. It's different. We don't have to fight the older situation because that's not going to work out.
It's not productive at all.
It's not productive at all. If anything, it becomes more destructive. We have to accept the fact that they know what they know and they agree on what they know. And what we know now, we could apply it to the younger generations of our life. I
Yes.
think it puts you in a situation where you're kind of in a very big responsibility that you have, but you have to be very careful with your words, the way that you present yourself to a younger generation. The children, like we all were, we sense how adults move and speak and how they say their words. We know when they're feeling angry.
Even how they walk.
We know when they're
Yeah.
feeling sarcastic. We know when they're trying to hide it from children. And it's so stupid because they're kind of like, the kids are here. The kids already know what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is pretty lame. And I think you need to operate on the awareness that children are not as stupid as you'd like them to think. So we need to be more aware of our next generation and at the same time be accepting of our parental
Exactly.
situations. I think the only way we could do that is not by carrying on the generational trauma, by reacting to our children the way our parents reacted to us. Break that shit, change the course, and be like, I hear you. As annoying as you are to me or triggering as you are to me, and my parents would probably be so triggered enough to beat you up, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's all right. This is different. You have to break that pattern somehow, some way. And I think it's really beautiful. I mean, with all of us, everybody's raised so weirdly, and Pasifika is a very straightforward square box, and I think that's what makes it so much easier for us as well. And it's such good news as well because we're very aware of our parents, prior to our parents, the culture, the traditions, and all the beautiful folk stories in life. Like, there's a way that we could convey it to the younger generation without all this baggage.
Right.
Like, save them that baggage for every generation that comes after them. We know to break that barrier, and I think it's good to be aware of that. And that's the most important part because it doesn't give you so much credit, but it saves a whole generation from having to deal with it. And that's good enough for me, at least.
It's hard 'cause I know that it's Mema's got that, she's born and raised in Samoa. We're New Zealand born Pasifika, and it's so hard to get that balance, but at the same time we've felt disconnected from home, and at the same time we're trying to adapt and bring the cultural aspect so that we raise good kids as well. But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, that's too much for me. So I think for the balance part of your question, Hana, it's so difficult. I feel like I love some parts of how my parents have raised us, but I also need to, I think the key word was to understand that every part and every part of our journey, it's going to have to change, and we're going to have to adapt because times have changed. And now we have to allow our kids to be a little bit vocal, because when they're in a situation where they need to be vocal and we teach them no, then they're going to be like, nah, man, I was raised to not speak out. And that's where we have to understand now that the times have changed. My parents now, at the age that they are, they understand, well, this is being disrespectful. And I said, Mom, in today, our kids need to be a little bit vocal, because, man, if they're put in a situation where, my gosh, I would not want this to happen to anyone, you know, something happens to them, and, you know, I'm going to use this as just a situation, you know, where they're out and about, and, you know, something really, you know, bad happens. If we don't allow our kids to be vocal, then, yeah, they're going to keep going like how I was. Oh, no, I was told not to say anything. So I think we can take parts, but also understand that every generation, it's going to be different.
It's going to be different.
It's gonna be different.
It's really strange, because
Yeah.
a lot of the times when you're restricting children to speak their truth, they are not vocal to when they need help.
Yeah.
And that's the scariest part,
Yeah.
is when they genuinely need the help and they're not vocalizing themselves to the family. And that's the most important factor.
Yeah.
You need to have a safe foundation. So I suppose it's supposed to be really good to make them feel that they are safe at home. And by doing so is you're not projecting your trauma onto your kids and be like, what I went through, you should know this, because that's not fair. They need to experience life for themselves. You've experienced your trauma. I know your trauma is going to be so hard enough for you to try and mold your child. Your child is an entire human being, a brand new human being on their own.
Brand new. Yeah.
Whatever you're molding them to is within your own cursive situation. If you had a bad life, you're going to mold them to fear what you fear that they haven't even experienced. And they're inevitably going to experience it because you're manifesting it for them. So I suppose the greatest truth about it is when once you're so self-aware of all your trauma and everything that's happened to you, and to be really open to the fact where your child would be open and, you know, they come up to you and be like, I like this person. I feel like this could be my best friend. Mom's natural response is, what's her family like? Where's her girl? Where's this girl from? It's a Pacifica thing. My mom would be like studying the shit out of them. What's their family like? What's her mom like? What's her dad like? Where do they work?
together?
What do they do?
Yeah.
Are they together? Are they not
Do
together?
they go to church?
Yeah. And so we don't want to project that onto the next generation. We want to know that we want them to understand that we support the situation. But all of life itself is their decision to make. We are not navigating life for them. They are navigating themselves. They're grown as people enough to do so. I think where everything becomes destructive is when we try to oppose the situation by controlling it. And I think a lot of the times when I was growing up, my parents were trying my dad particularly was trying so hard. And I know he loved me with all of his heart. But he tried so hard to control the situation where I don't get hurt. It ended up hurting me in every corner in the situation. And you're kind of like, once you oppose it without allowing them to feel it or experience it, let them experience the heartbreak. Let them experience the pain. But as long as they know that the OG foundation is there, that's good enough. You have to play the part where you're kind of like, this is a safety network for a child to come and recharge once the world f***s him over. We're not here to support you 24/7. We're here when you need us. So you're kind of like, you're not spoiling the situation, but at the same time you allow them the freedom to become who they are, express who they want to be. And if any part falls short, where somebody's heart breaks, or where somebody's, everything fails and you kind of need somewhere to turn to, this is where you are as a family and a foundation. And I think every family collectively, not only Pacifica, and I think Pacifica works really well in this situation because we're all about family, which means one person goes on an adventure, the entire family is backing the shit up.
Yeah.
So you gotta win that shit.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you're that person halfway through the dream, and you're in the situation of kind of like, I don't think I could do this, because now you have a load of expectation to live up to. That's not how it's ever supposed to be. You are supposed to allow them to be whoever they want to be and endorse them in the most possible way you could. And at the same time, you are not in their business. And I think that's something that parents should know about their children. Parents should appreciate about children. And this is something that could change in the culture. The culture could always shift. I mean, we came from traditional things to monetary situation.
Right.
We could always shift ourselves, but we're well aware now. We know how prided we are as Samoans, or how much there's so much pride within families and family titles and all of that business. But this is like what makes Samoa Samoa. I appreciate that shit mostly as well. And I think a lot of the times you need to make the children understand the fact that they are capable of being creative outside of this bubble. You're not restricted to that. And it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be different and express it in your most. And that's the coolest thing.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Mema, honestly, for sharing your wealth of self-awareness and wisdom on the show. We really appreciate it. You definitely have to come on again, because I feel like we have so much more to talk about.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming into the show. We wish you the best with your career in music. And we'll be seeing you again on the show anyways. But any last words from our hosts?
Nah, all I have to say, man, as always, it's powerful, and there's always something calming about the beautiful Mema and everything that she shares. It's always, there's always, she's so unique. Like Hana mentioned earlier, thank you, Whawhetai Lava Sis. We love having you on the show.
When there is a weird, there is a way.
When there's
There's
a weird,
there's a way. Good morning, everybody.
Island baby, you're so beautiful, you drive me crazy. You know you're all that I need, so much more. Your strength and beauty, I can see in your eyes. I lose sight of